In June 2003, Mayor Daley named our guest today the Executive Director of the O'Hare Modernization Program. Our guest today joined city government in 1990, working in various positions for the City Council's Committee on Transportation and the Public Way, the Mayor's Correspondence Unit, and the Department of Consumer Services. From 1995 to 1999, our guest today was an assistant to the director in the Mayor's Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. Before heading up the O'Hare Modernization Program, our guest today served as First Deputy Commissioner in the Department of Planning and Development. Our guest today is a native Chicagoan and a graduate of DePaul University. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to the City Club of Chicago, Rosie Andolino. Rosie? It's all yours.
Good morning. I don't know if this is working. Broderick? No? I'm glad to see so many familiar faces here. So for those of you who haven't had your name mentioned today, thanks for coming, and I appreciate your support, because I do recognize a lot of you, and perhaps you will join soon. And I thank you, Jay Doherty. I appreciate this tremendous honor to come before you and the City Club. The City Club of Chicago is one of the most important forums to be able to discuss issues such as the O'Hare Modernization Program for our region. Steve Neal, a great friend to the City Club, I know a personal friend to Jay. Many of you in this room remember him, knew him, and now will miss him. We sadly said goodbye to him last week, but one of the things he did right, because he had a vision for Chicago, he knew what was best for Chicago, and he always had fun with working with the issues in Chicago. But one of the things he wrote was that hundreds of thousands of jobs are at stake in the expansion of O'Hare, and so is the economic future of the Chicago area. He understood that part of Mayor Daley's vision for Chicago was keeping O'Hare strong. But having a premier airport system does not come by chance. It takes good planning and foresight. And I'm here today to update you on our Mayor Daley's vision and plan for O'Hare. And that is the O'Hare Modernization Program, which is among the largest development projects currently underway in the country. This is an exciting time to be part of the airline industry and aviation, as airports and airlines begin to realize and see passengers return to the skies. And that is certainly being felt at O'Hare. In fact, while many other airports are still feeling the effects of September 11th, O'Hare, as we predicted, is back, and it's back stronger than ever, with more than 931,000 flight operations last year. Thank you. And with that, O'Hare maintains its current title as the world's busiest airport. But along with the world's busiest airport comes another title, and that's the nation's most delayed airport. Yeah, something we're working on. Back in 2001, many of you may recall, Congress mandated hearings asking our local leaders, or telling our local leaders, to come up with a solution for O'Hare's delayed problems. And they came up with a solution. And that solution is the O'Hare Modernization Program. It's now 2004, and delays at O'Hare are back. Recently, United States Transportation Secretary Norm Mineta said O'Hare flight delays are clogging our national airspace system and inconveniencing the traveling public. And to help mitigate this problem, Secretary Mineta and FAA Administrator Marion Blakey, they directed United and American to cut their flights during peak hours by 5%. This places artificial limits on the market demand, and it reduces delays for a short-term period, a short-term solution, or a Band-Aid, if you will. We know now what we knew 3 years ago, that there's only one way to solve delays at O'Hare, and that's the O'Hare Modernization Program. The O'Hare Modernization Program is a $6.6 billion project in 2001 dollars. What it will do is it will add one new runway. It will relocate 3 runways, 1, 2, and 3, and it will extend 2 others. In addition, it will create a western access point to O'Hare. It's the first time in years that O'Hare have ever had an entrance from the west, allowing our western neighbors to directly come into O'Hare, get onto a flight, and fly anywhere in the world without inconveniencing them by having to go all the way around O'Hare, which you've had to do. In addition, that western terminal and concourse will provide additional gates for the airlines, as well as a secured people mover system that'll take people from the new western terminal to the eastern terminal. And it includes on-airport road configuration, access roads. It's important to note that the scope and the cost of the O'Hare Modernization Program has not changed since Mayor Daley introduced this program in 2001. The benefits of a modernized O'Hare. Well, they can be summed up in 3 key easy phrases. Substantial economic growth to the region's economy, significant reduction in delays, as well as huge annual savings for air passengers and airlines alike. O'Hare is the economic engine that drives this region's economy. And modernizing O'Hare, well, it will create 195,000 new jobs for this region, on top of the 450,000 jobs it creates today. I see Dennis smiling there. We need jobs here. In addition, it will add an additional $18 billion to this region's economy annually, on top of the $38 billion it generates today. A modernized airfield will reduce overall delays by 79% and bad weather delays by 95%. Those reduced delays translate into real savings for air passengers and the airlines. A more efficient O'Hare is expected to save consumers $380 million a year, and the airlines $370 million a year. Add these savings up, and they total almost $8 billion over a 10-year period, which is reason enough to move this project forward. Reducing delays at O'Hare, well, they can only be solved by modernizing its airfield. O'Hare is prone to delays because of intersecting runway configuration. It's very an antiquated airfield. It was designed for propeller air-driven aircraft. The airport, some will say, operates smoothly during good weather, but in bad weather conditions, air traffic controllers are forced to remove an arrival runway at O'Hare, reducing O'Hare's capacity by 1/3. And that's when you feel those delays at O'Hare. Modernizing the airfield into a parallel runway configuration will allow the airport to operate more efficiently. Our future airfield takes advantage of the prominent wind direction in the Chicago region, which is an east-west wind direction. And why is that significant? Because planes take off and land into the wind. However, it maintains our crosswind capabilities with our 4 right and 4 left runways. Parallel runway system is not unique. In fact, the FAA is operating it today. It's currently being operated at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson, as well as Dallas-Fort Worth. Atlanta has 2 closely spaced sets of parallel runways. If I can just talk to you a little bit about closely spaced parallel runways. They operate basically together. When a plane takes off, another plane can land, so they're treated almost as one runway. So this set operates together, and so does this. But they provide for 3 independent, Atlanta will have 3 independent arrival runways as they're now constructing their 3rd independent runway now. The spacing between the runways, the separation, is 1,000 and 1,050 in Atlanta. Dallas-Fort Worth, well, they too have actually 1, this would be together 2, 3 sets of 3 sets of independent arrival runways. And they have the potential and planning for building their 6th parallel runway, or 4th independent arrival runway. Their runway separations are both 1,200 feet apart on their closely spaced parallels. What's interesting to note about Dallas is if you rotate it, you have O'Hare. It's not rocket science. So we're confident that this plan will be approved because it's currently being operated today. In fact, you'll see that our closely spaced sets of parallels, our northern closely spaced set is 1,600 feet apart. So they're separated in 1,600 feet, and our southern is 1,200 feet. Dallas, 1,200 feet separation for both. So we know it's a safe and efficient operation. As I stated, if I could talk to you a little bit more about Dallas and O'Hare, you'll notice this is their sixth runway that they're planning on building, and our first runway, our northernmost runway. As I stated, two sets of closely spaced parallels. Their center core for their terminals, just like ours. Again, two sets of closely spaced parallel, and then what will be their fourth independent arrival runway. And both maintain crosswind capabilities. Parallel runways will allow O'Hare to remain competitive. An example of Chicago currently competing with other major cities happened 2 years ago when Boeing launched a nationwide search for a new headquarters. Their finalist cities were Denver, Dallas, and Chicago, cities with large hub airports that can move people and goods rapidly. They chose Chicago because of our central location and the ability to get almost anywhere in the world in one single flight. In addition, our unmatched quality of life, as well as our excellent workforce. And unless we modernize O'Hare, we will lose the opportunity to lure more companies, trade shows, conventions, and tourism to our region, all of which create jobs for our region. The master plan. As I said earlier, an airport system takes good planning. And recently you may have read articles about our master plan. Well, the Department of Aviation recently submitted it to the FAA, or the Federal Aviation Administration, and it's a 20-year plan for O'Hare. And what it includes is all that could be built at O'Hare, not what must be built. A master plan outlines projects and funding sources that will allow the airport to meet future demand. It gives the airport and the airlines the flexibility to determine which projects move forward and when based on that demand. There are three major components to our master plan. One, the CIP, or Capital Improvement Program. That's a $4.1 billion program for the airport. And what that deals with is ongoing maintenance at O'Hare, the repairing of runways, repairing or modernization of some of the terminals, as well as security issues. Every airport has a capital improvement program, with or without any other projects that go on. You have to have a capital improvement program. That airport has to maintain itself and continue to run and service its people. Next, our World Gateway program. World Gateway is a $2.6 billion project that was announced in 1999. What that does, it retains O'Hare's flexibility by allowing more gates to be built on the east side of the airport if and when that demand is there. My personal favorite, the O'Hare Modernization Program. It's a $6.6 billion program in 2001 dollars, and I'd like to underscore the fact that neither the scope nor the cost of the O'Hare Modernization Program have changed. They remain consistent. In addition, there's no state or local tax dollars to be used for any component of airfield or airport projects. All financing comes from airport-generated funding, including airline-backed bonds, passenger facility charges, or PFCs, and the Federal Airport Improvement Program grants. And let's discuss financing. The O'Hare Modernization Program will be constructed and financed in two phases, like most projects of this magnitude. Last summer, Mayor Daley and the airlines announced a historic $2.9 billion funding agreement to finance Phase 1 of the O'Hare Modernization Program. Under this agreement, 65% of the funding will come from general airport revenue-backed bonds. 23% of the funding will come from passenger facility charges, and 12% from Federal Airport Improvement Program grants. Again, there will be no state or local tax dollars to finance this project. Part of that funding agreement included a refunding and restructuring of outstanding O'Hare debt to produce $100 million in savings over a 4-year period, from 2003 until 2006. These are both prudent and timely measures, not unlike refinancing your own home when interest rates are low. We've had 2 bond issuances thus far, one in August and one in December. Together, they will save the airlines and the airport approximately $45 million until 2004. We're well on our way to that $100 million in savings that we agreed to. These are the elements of Phase 1 that the Phase 1 financing will pay for. Planning and environmental studies and preliminary engineering for the entire O'Hare Modernization Program, as well as detailed engineering and construction of 3 runway projects. The, here we go, northernmost runway, 9 left, 27 right, which, if I can add, will be built landside, not airside. The extension of 10 left, and the relocation of 10 center, 28 center. In addition, the South Airfield Detention Basin, as well as the relocation of the Union Pacific Rail Line, which, as you can see, would cut across our runway 10 center. That will be relocated all the way to the western boundary of the airport. Wetland mitigation for the entire airfield, as well as other enabling projects to prepare the airfield for construction. These projects represent over 65% of all airfield work for the entire O'Hare Modernization Program. And it also includes land acquisition. We've tried to minimize the impact to our surrounding communities, and today the airport sits on approximately 7,300 acres of land. We will need to acquire a total 433 acres for the modernization program. This number has not changed since we introduced this program in 2001. The land needed is in Chicago, Des Plaines, Bensonville, and Elk Grove Village. In fact, we've already acquired approximately 45% of the land in the northwest quadrant of the property needed for construction of our northernmost runway. Most of it has been commercial and industrial properties in Des Plaines and Chicago. And with the help of our land acquisition team, 43 businesses have already relocated, the majority moving back to Des Plaines and Chicago, as well as neighboring communities of Bensonville, Elk Grove, and Wooddale. Allow me to show you the land acquisition areas in more detail. The city of Des Plaines, you'll see the aerial map that shows the boundary of Des Plaines. The yellow indicates the future boundary of O'Hare, and the blue is O'Hare Airport today. The orange, you can illustrate here, is the land acquisition area needed from Des Plaines. The village of Bensonville, the blue is O'Hare Airport, the yellow is the new boundary of O'Hare, and the orange is the land needed in Bensonville. And the next is Elk Grove Village. Actually, my folks still reside right there. I grew up in Elk Grove. My father's here today. Yeah, thanks, Dad. It's a little hard to see here, but the blue, again, represents O'Hare. The yellow is the future boundary of O'Hare. And there's 5 parcels located at the eastern tip of Elk Grove Village that are needed. It's a little easier to see there, but again, 5 parcels of land that are needed from Elk Grove Village for the expansion program of O'Hare. Many of you may remember this date. As the O'Hare Modernization Program continues to move forward, we've received tremendous bipartisan support from our federal, state, and local elected officials, as well as our community and business leaders in and around the region. This was evident last summer when Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich signed the O'Hare Modernization Act into law. At the event, you'll see Mayor Daley, Speaker of the House, Speaker Hastert, Congressman Lipinski, DuPage County Board Chairman Bob Shillstrom, Senate President Emil Jones, Senate Minority Leader Frank Watson, and many, many others, including our friends from Labor, Dennis Gannon. I would like to again thank all of you, our participants, many of you, I'm sure, who helped support this program and move the O'Hare Modernization Act forward. So I thank you. With the funding agreement in place and the legislation in place, all that remains before construction can begin is the completion of the FAA's regulatory process. And I'd like to repeat that because this is the FAA's regulatory process. We're working with them to complete that process. And as part of that regulatory process, the city submitted a draft airport layout plan to the FAA in December of 2002. We received comments back from the FAA last May. Those comments were only technical in nature and showed no significant flaws with the program. We revised the airport layout plan, and we resubmitted it back to the FAA in October of 2003. Once the airport layout plan is approved, it becomes the official planning document for the future development of O'Hare. And if you'd like to view that airport layout plan, the final airport layout plan, you can actually go to our website, www.o'hare.com, or the FAA's website, or some of the local libraries in the region. Concurrently with the airport layout plan process, the FAA is also conducting an EIS, or Environmental Impact Statement, which is the most comprehensive level of review on any airport development project. The Environmental Impact Statement analyzes the purpose and need of the project, reasonable alternatives to the project, as well as environmental impacts that could result from the proposed project. This chart illustrates the thorough process of the Environmental Impact Statement. The FAA is currently preparing the draft EIS. Once that's complete, they'll get the review from federal, state, and local agencies, as well as a public comment period. Then they will prepare and issue the final EIS, or Environmental Impact Statement. And then they'll issue the Record of Decision. That Record of Decision is essentially our building permit. And once we receive it, we'll be able to break ground immediately. And how are we going to accomplish that? Well, we've assembled a team of the most qualified and experienced planners, engineers, and architects in the business. As we now begin transitioning from planning to the implementation phase of the project, overall program management is essential to keeping a project of this magnitude on time and on budget. And the team charged with that program management for the O'Hare Modernization Program is Chicago Aviation Partners, led by Dim Jim Aviation. Dim Jim Aviation and its parent company, AECOM, is an international leader in the management of large airport development projects, having managed $25 billion in domestic airport development programs at major cities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, Denver, and Dallas. And with me today is George Vitas, who's going to be our program manager, and we'll be working very closely together to get this job done. We're also pleased that Chicago Aviation Partners is a joint venture comprised of 50% MBE, WB participation, including McKissick & McKissick Midwest, CivCon Services, Inc., Incorporated, Regina Webster & Associates, and Synchronous Solutions. In fact, for the past year, BPC Airport Partners, our master civil engineer, has been on board providing for programming and planning to the conceptual design stage. They have refined site plans and have helped establish scopes and budgets for the detailed engineering portion of this project. And earlier this year, we brought on board our lead engineer teams, who will build on the work of the master civil engineer and bring us to 100% completion of construction drawings for the entire Phase 1 project. Throughout the modernization program, we will continue to work to make O'Hare Airport more environmentally friendly by going even further to incorporate concepts in sustainable design and construction methods, implementing Mayor Daley's vision of making Chicago one of the greenest airports, greenest cities in the world. As the mayor has said, the many greening programs we have in Chicago make it a city where people really want to live, work, and raise a family. They help us attract new employers and visitors, which keeps our economy strong and helps ensure a brighter future for everyone. Mayor Daley has also been very clear on his support for Western access and we remain committed to working with our state, local, and federal leaders, including Speaker of the House, Speaker Hastert, to identify and secure funding for these projects that will enhance our regional transportation system and complement our airport. The O'Hare Modernization Program not only addresses congestion at the airport, but it also creates opportunities for new road and rail projects that will spur additional growth for our western communities around the airport and improve access and relieve congestions on roads near the airport. Many of you are familiar with the Elgin-O'Hare Expressway that goes neither to Elgin nor O'Hare. Well, we have an opportunity here working with the state and Speaker Hastert by the city opening a front door to the western side of O'Hare, that Elgin-O'Hare Expressway can actually come right into, feed right into O'Hare Airport. So our customers to the west can come in, park their cars, hop on a flight, and get anywhere in the world they want to go without inconveniencing them by going all the way around the airport, which deals with more congestion, keeps it simple. In addition, we protected for a 300-foot corridor on airport property, allowing for a connection to I-90 toll roads and I-294. These projects have been on the state of Illinois' drawing board for many years, and we continue to work with DuPage County, Chairman Shillstrom, and the Illinois Department of Transportation as they move these projects forward. The O'Hare Modernization Program also creates the opportunity to extend the CTA Blue Line from the eastern terminal to the western terminal, as well as allow Metra to come in from the north and provide a stop for their customers at our western terminal. One thing is clear, I think we can all agree, O'Hare Airport is the economic engine that drives this region's economy. The FAA estimates that the demand at O'Hare will continue to grow, as evident by the record number of flights experienced at the airport last year. But the airport has reached critical capacity. The O'Hare Modernization Program will allow O'Hare to meet that growth efficiently. The cost and the scope for the O'Hare Modernization Program has not changed since this program was introduced in 2001. But the cost of doing nothing at O'Hare, that's much greater. At stake is our region's economic prosperity and the efficiency of our national aviation system. That is why we remain focused at the task at hand and continue to work diligently so that the benefits of the O'Hare Modernization Program are realized. That O'Hare Modernization Program will reduce overall delays by 79% and bad weather delays by 95%. It will create 195,000 new jobs for this region, and it will add $18 billion in new economic activity annually to this region. It will save airlines and air passengers hundreds of millions of dollars per year. Most importantly, the O'Hare Modernization Program will maintain this region's place as the aviation's crossroads of North America. We appreciate your support on one of the most important economic development projects for this region and the state. However, there's still a lot of work to be done. It is important that you continue to talk to your friends, your neighbors, and your coworkers, and share with them the facts of the O'Hare Modernization Program and the tremendous benefits that our region stands to gain. I thank you for this opportunity and welcome any of your questions.
If you want to ask a question, there's the microphone over there. Line up. I have to go to the Roosevelt modernization program, so I'll ask my question and leave. And I've been here, a member of the City Club for 20 years, and I guess when you have a few bucks to dish out, you get standing ovation. And even without that, you would have had a standing ovation. That just merely made it longer. So let's line up there. Have your RFPs in hand. No one wants to ask the question. Oh, well, I'll start off, and then I'll run out. Best time frame. When will we start using shovels? When will Denny Gannon and Leahy open up shop?
Well, as I stated earlier, we're working with the FAA. This is their process. So we're completing our regulatory process that the FAA controls, and we're working with them diligently to provide them with all the information they need so they can make their decision very shortly, we hope.
And with that answer, I take my leave. Jake?
Any other questions?
Yes, one.
All right.
Alderman?
Mr. Terrace, identify yourself and stand up. You're on television.
Home life. So busy. What, Mark Berry here?
He is, Alderman. It makes for a good marriage because we, like ships sailing through the night.
I was at your wedding.
Yes. Thank you, Alderman. If there's anything else?
Any other questions?
I mean,
Alderman, did you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Tough to make the move across, but I'm interested to know if this plan addresses the efficiencies and how we'd improve our competitive posture for freight operation. Talk about that, billions of dollars.
well, O'Hare does have, the freight at the airport as well with FedEx and other businesses there. And the modernized airfield does just that. It allows those planes as well to be able to get in and out quickly without being delayed from in other cities, other places. So the modernized airfield allows us to address that issue, and they too benefit. Thank you.
Let's get started, that's all.
Thank you, Alderman Beavers.